Welcome back to the Dale Wiley Show. Today my guest is a longtime writer and CNN editor, Wayne Drash, who is not only covering the Chicago police shootings, but has also written a book about Penny Hardaway and his heartwarming involvement with the Memphis neighborhood long after he had gone on to NBA greatness and riches. Great to have Wayne Drash with us today. Wayne, you are, what's your official title at CNN now? You've been there so long. So what's your title now?
I've been there for 20 years now. I'm a CNN digital enterprise reporter, if you will.
Okay. And you've kind of covered some stories that have run the gamut. I mean, part of your beat, though, is mental health in America. Is that right?
Yeah, part of it's mental health, as well as I do a lot of stories in the Black communities across America. So yes. Well,
and right now, when I'm talking to you, you're in Chicago right now. Is that right?
Yes. I've been covering the various high-profile police shootings here, as well as just talking to people in the South Side of what life is like. Talked to a young man yesterday. His brother is killed in the violence here in Chirac, if you will. And but it's not just his brother. I think he rattled off about 12 other friends or people that he knew that have died, and it's just a sad, terrible reality for so many youth here in the city. And this guy was not a gang member, nor was his brother that was killed. Just caught in a crossfire of sort of gang warfare, though.
Well, and I mean the main story you've been covering there is the Cedric Chapman story, is that right?
Cedric Chapman, Laquan McDonald, and really just following the mayor and trying to get answers. When did he know about what? Especially related to Laquan McDonald.
Okay, and so just give everybody a little bit of a sense of where we are now in that story. The Chicago's kind of come to light and agreed to allow some things that have been there for a long time to come out. So tell us a little bit about that.
I mean, it's just the Black community is kind of the mold. These issues have always been around. Nobody's really ever listened to us when we've kind of voiced these complaints before. Video, Dale, is quite the game changer in today's world. Just think if that video of Laquan McDonald, which had existed for 13 months before it released, and showing him get shot 16 times. If it weren't for that, there wouldn't have been any charges brought against that officer. And really that kind of, the release of that video kind of started everything. And it started sort of a spiral of other videos having to be released, too, of other shootings. So certainly the others are not nearly as grotesque as what we all see in the Laquan McDonald shooting, but the Black community here would say, except it's in these other cases, it's still young Black men who were shot and killed and shouldn't have been. It's in some ways it's very much related to the book that I did on these courts, and all the issues that I saw doing that book are really coming to the fore across the nation, whether it's here in Chicago, Ferguson, or Baltimore.
Well, and the thing that's kind of shocking to me about watching the videos is it's just as if the officers doing the shooting, and in many cases we're talking about dozens of bullets. I mean, it's not just something to wing somebody and get a hold of the situation. I mean, it just ends up being this kind of almost the same reaction in every case. I mean, do the cops not realize that they're being filmed? I mean, what's the dynamic here?
To be honest, I don't know, Dale. I mean, it's I really don't understand that either. Did police tactics change in the last 10 years? And these are questions that I've been asking, and I really don't know the answer to those. But I mean, especially Laquan being shot 16 times, it's just hard to fathom. It's hard to watch that video.
Right.
I mean, it's pretty clear to most people he didn't pose a threat. That even so I've talked to some people that say, Wayne, if he had just been shot once or twice and survived, he would have been charged with attempted murder of officers, and he would be sitting in prison right now. And if he had any lawyers that were worth a salt, they would be pushing to try to get that video of the incident, but it often takes 2, 3, 4 years to get a hold of that video in these cases. And they're like, there are a lot of young black men charged with, attempted assault, attempted murder of officers that are sitting in prisons. And I hadn't been able to fully delve into that. But I do at least colloquially hear that there are many cases like that. He would have gone straight from the hospital to the county jail, and then, if not forced to plead to something, certainly would have gone to trial and, presumably convicted, because you had at least 5 officers in the public records, ready to testify against him that he charged towards Officer Van Dyke.
Right.
And a lot of white America just cannot relate that to these stories, because we have a pretty good standing with police in our communities. That it's hard for you or I to understand what it's like to walk down a street anywhere, Dale, in America, and is it racial bias? Is it racism? But people would look skeptically at you if you just decided to take a jog around a neighborhood, a nice neighborhood, and you're black. And right. It's where we are in America right now. Hey, how did we get to this point? I mean, and it's larger questions like that in the South Side of Chicago. In the 1930s, from you look at pictures, it was a thriving area with black-owned businesses. Everybody in the community, a lot of pride, and in the community. And how did it go from that to today and everything else? You can look at so many different dynamics. There were factories, so you had middle class. You had a black middle class more readily than we do now. But now all those factory jobs have been shipped overseas, so there's very little jobs like that available anymore. And so then, McDonald's and all these other fast food places, start becoming the places for a livable wage. And there's no easy answer to it. And then you have schools close, and so then the education system kind of falls apart, and it's happened It's like that there in St. Louis, Dale. It's like that in Memphis. It's like that in Baltimore. It's like that in Chicago. And these are issues. These are tough issues. And I don't even pretend to act like I know what the long-term answer or solutions are.
What are you hearing in the communities? I mean, when people are sharing their ideas, what ideas are they bringing up?
I mean, really, so I did talk to Jesse Jackson. He calls it we need urban reconstruction. We need a humongous plan, almost like a White House initiative, to pump millions into businesses in these areas and try to provide some hope, try to provide jobs and opportunity. Do like Detroit did, and in these rough areas, plow down houses, but make those hires within the communities instead of outsourcing it to like a mega contractor that's going to be bring in union guys from New York, other cities, make it so that it's basically black owned construction outfits that then can hire locally. This guy I talked to yesterday, he had a lot of praise for Spike Lee, because Spike Lee did a lot of stuff when he was here filming Chirac. All the extras that were hired were local people in the neighborhood and various neighborhoods, and I think that he said that they got $80 a day every time they did different stand-ins, and $80 in these communities is a lot of money, especially if you're an extra for 3 days. And so you hear about that stuff, but gosh, is there the widespread support for that across America at a high level? That I don't know. It doesn't feel like it. Certainly, it's not really talked about much at all in any of these presidential debates.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Now, of course, the mayor in Chicago, Rahm Emanuel, was already facing a lot of heat over the past, better part of a year. And now I see headlines that he won't step down or he won't do this. I mean, what's the feeling about Emanuel there?
So that is the feeling that he will not resign. He has said he won't resign. That the way you tackle a crisis like this is you kind of give it your all, and yes, we've got a problem. Let's fix it. That's very much his mentality. I put in a request to interview him. Those requests have been shot down so far, but on Friday. For Friday, it was the mayor's 30th annual Martin Luther King breakfast, dating back to the 80s. And the community activists had been calling on black clergy, black elected officials, and everyone else to boycott it. And there was probably two dozen protesters outside. Anytime somebody went inside, it was at a Hyatt Regency, and when people would go by them, they would shout, "Shame on you! Don't go in, join us," that type of thing. But I gotta give the mayor credit. He delivered a heck of a speech. It was. Though there were calls for boycotts, there may have been a handful of people who boycotted the event. But there were 600 or 700 people at the hall, and largely African American crowd. And the mayor delivered a pretty darn good speech where he didn't shy away from everything that's happened. He faced it and said we've got to do better, and it was pretty interesting. The dynamics. Yeah, I mean the tension in the room was certainly palpable early on in when the first speaker, she got up there to give a Martin Luther King sort of remembrance, and just as she started speaking, this woman, she started shouting 16 shots, like at the top of her voice, like just over and over, and her voice was echoing. You could hardly even hear the speaker, and the speaker is this beloved woman that's a longtime alderman here in the city of Chicago, and this woman is just shrieking, 16 shots and a cover-up, 16 shots and a cover-up, and the mayor's, having his cheese omelet there at the table. You couldn't avoid that. This woman. It wasn't one of these hecklers that's out in the hallway type thing. It was front and center, and everybody's kind of looking around, like, oh my goodness, this is going to get interesting as this thing keeps going.
Wow.
Then later on, for another woman, one of the ministers, as she delivered her prayer, she named some of the high-profile people that have been killed by police in her prayer, and then coming out of that prayer, a man stood up and he started shouting 16 shots and a cover-up, and so that everybody was getting even more tense, like, oh my God, what's going to happen when Ron gets up here? And there were some murmurs, at least around me, that when the mayor was going to speak, that there were 16 people spread around the room that were going to stand up and start shouting 16 shots in a cover-up. Whether or not that was just total rumors, or if the people got cold feet once the mayor started speaking. The mayor's speech was not interrupted by protest, but it was a quite a remarkable day of just contrast from what was happening inside, and then these protesters, and then just the mayor's speech itself.
And so, how will you be back in Chicago then, or what's the next step?
Yeah, I'm certainly on sort of the Chicago beat for quite a while, and right now I'm working on some long-term stories that instead of just turning kind of spot turnaround news stories, I'm working on some longer pieces of kind of what life is like on the south side of Chicago.
Okay. Wow. Well, that sounds like quite an adventure there. And I understand you're getting to head home to Atlanta tomorrow. Was that right?
Yes.
Okay. Good.
It's gotten awfully cold up here, so I'm trying to get home. I think the wind chill out right now, I think, is like minus 20 degrees, and
wow.
The Southerners were ready to get home.
Tell me a little bit about the Wayne Drash Anthony Hardaway friendship.
Yeah, Dale, is just a crazy thing. As you know, I grew up in Memphis. I claimed Memphis as home. I ended up moving away from Memphis when I was 14, but I still called it home. But many years ago and many moons ago, I played basketball as a teen, and when I was 15 years old, I went to University of Kentucky Eddie Sutton basketball camp. I was a freshman in high school, and one of my teammates on my team at the camp, you know, they just randomly pick people and say, you know, these 5 people, you know, this is your team for the week. And the other freshman on that team we were playing with upperclassmen was Anthony Hardaway, who, you know, the basketball world came to know as Penny Hardaway eventually.
Right.
And so that was my first dealings with Penny, and just being a Memphis guy, he's from Memphis, and he ended up going to University of Memphis, and so I followed his career on up, and just a weird coincidence. You know, I'd always wondered what had become of him, and I got a friend in Tuskegee, Alabama, who liked the stories that I do on the African American communities, and she's like, Wayne, I got this connection in Memphis about this old player. You probably have never heard of him, but this guy Penny Hardaway is doing some amazing stuff in Memphis for really hard hit youth. And I was like, Penny Hardaway, she is one of my favorites back in the day. And for those that don't know the story of Penny too, he was the face of Nike after Michael Jordan. Chris Rock, there was the famous commercials with Lil Penny,
right?
Of which Chris Rock was the voice of Lil Penny, and those commercials I believe were directed by Spike Lee, and you know many consider those some of the best commercials that Nike has ever done. And but what Penny was doing was he is one of the guys that maintained his wealth. So many of them don't. They blow their money, but Penny maintained his wealth. But one of his friends was sick and dying of cancer, and that was one of his friends from youth. His name's Desmond Merriweather, and Desmond was the middle school coach at the school where Penny had gone to. As you know, Desmond had gone there too, and Desmond asked him to come over and look at the team that they were struggling to score against zone defenses, and so he asked if Penny could come take a look at them and see if he had any advice for them. Well, Penny came over and instantly fell in love with all of the guys, and because Desmond was battling colon cancer too, Penny eventually became the head coach of these guys. They were all middle schoolers, and you know, with Penny's involvement, their grades went up. He helped it's kind of the same story you hear about it. The fathers aren't in their lives. Moms or grandmas, whoever's raising them, are just at wit's end, struggling as all get out. One of the kids that went to his home, he didn't even have running water in his house, and so these are just kids that are facing almost insurmountable pressures. If it's not the gangs, it's just life without a father, life without any sort of male role model. And also just living in poverty. And so Penny came in, he started helping them, helped, these grandmas kind of pay off bills and stuff like that. Took the guy shopping, at one of the main, nice stores in Memphis, got them all kind of suit and ties. And, as the season went on, they eventually won the state championship there as middle schoolers. And the postscript, which I've not done a story on yet, is so his friend Desmond that inspired him to coach, he he had stage 4 cancer, colon cancer at the time. He lived for almost five years afterwards. He had been given 24 to 48 hours to die at one point, but largely as living through these children, Desmond lived for another 4 to 5 years. He died just last year, but Penny has not stopped. He has followed those kids and is now coaching their high school team, East High School in Memphis, and right now they are ranked in the top 25 in the nation. So it's quite a story. This is a guy who doesn't have to do anything, like literally, because he still has about $40 or $50 million left.
Right.
But he's down there, in sort of one of the roughest neighborhoods of Memphis. He obviously has his house elsewhere in Memphis in a much nicer area, but he's still going in to the neighborhood. It's called Binghamton, known as the BBB, Beautiful Black Binghamton, and still coaching and still trying to inspire these guys. There was one guy that Penny that was older. I think he was 2, if not 3 years older than those middle schoolers. His name's Diedrich Lawson. He's playing for Memphis, University of Memphis right now, and is one of the top freshmen in the nation. He wears jersey number 1, presumably for Penny. So
Wow.
these are stories that I watch all these different people pontificating that there's not leaders in the black community. They're not doing enough, and Dale, from my experience, there are thousands of great people in the black community trying their darndest to make change. It's
Right.
just that you don't ever hear about their stories, and
Sure.
so that's what Penny just happens to be a big face and a big figure, so you hear about his story, and so he really represents the thousands of others that don't get the credit.
Well, and just so we leave the whole story, I mean, after you wrote the story for CNN, you were asked by a literary agent to turn it into a book, right?
Yes, and that I had gone to Memphis and just had done a quick a one-off feature story, and a literary agent for Distal, which is a great literary firm in New York that most writers would give their left nut to even have an interview with them, let alone an agent reaching out to you directly saying, "Hey, is there a book there?" And that's kind of how it started. And that, having never written a book, that was a interesting process. The proposal. You have to kind of come up with about a 60, 70-page proposal, and then it's a rigorous process with me and my agent working with me, and then that took about a month to get that to where we thought it was shaped enough to be presentable, and then for him to try to go out and sell it, and he did, and it ended up being a book. So, so it was quite an extraordinary ride. I had to write the thing in 3 months.
Wow.
Which it was the most I've ever been in any of my writing, just because I would set a goal of trying to write basically 5,000 words at least every 2 days, but but not get bogged down with, basically I would say chapter 1, finish it by Tuesday. And then I would have chapter 2, finish it by Thursday. And chapter 3, finish it by Saturday, and just keep going and going, and not get bogged down necessarily. Just get something on paper, and then once you meet those various targets, after you get like 8 chapters together, then start paying more attention to writing style and flow and all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you planning on writing any more books? Do you have any other?
I hope to. I don't have any like in the hopper right now. It all kind of comes down to cost benefit analysis, as well as trying to find the time to do it. It's just so hard when you're working a full-time job. For that, I did take a 3 months leave of absence to be able to focus solely on it. I would highly recommend that to other people, that if you have the chance. Not everybody has that opportunity, but you're kind of robbing yourself if you don't solely focus on it. So when I think about writing another one, I also think about how laborious that everything else it was, because you have to teach yourself not only to be a writer and deliver on all this stuff, you also have to train yourself on being a businessman and just other stuff. You get a website going, and also, for those of us that I consider myself pretty humble, it's an awkward thing to kind of, be touting yourself, for those of us that aren't necessarily comfortable doing that. Say, hey, tweeting out, read my book. It just feels weird when that's not necessarily your natural personality.
Sure. You've got to be a salesman too. Even if you have a major publishing house like you did with Simon and Schuster, I mean, there's still a lot of stuff that you're kind of expected to do on your own as well. Yes.
No, you're exactly right. You have to get your own blurbs, those type things. Like that's all on the writer. Like, hey, can I think they ask, hey, can you get Magic Johnson and so and so to get blurbs for you? And you're like, what? I mean, isn't that the publicist's responsibility? And so then you're like mad scramble around, and I actually did get a blurb from Magic Johnson, as well as Chris Webber. So it was all crazy. It was a fun ride. There are a lot of ups and downs in the process, but you always try to keep your long-term view, and certainly you can appreciate and relate to it. When I was 20 years old and just a young, naive guy in college, I made a promise that I would write a book one day, and to be able to fulfill that goal is, that's a heck of a deal. It's a lot of pride in it, and when you get to that last chapter, and you're going to finish that night, is just a amazing sensation. I know you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God, and you just great feeling.
Wayne, one other question about that. How did that process of creating the book and going through the editing and everything else that is required in the modern book world. How do you look at your job at CNN differently after having done that?
Oh gosh, you're catching me off guard with that one. I mean, if anything, I'm a rare journalist these days. I am often given, a couple weeks, sometimes a couple months to focus on one piece. And I guess the easiest way to describe some of the stories are very kind of Sunday New York Times Magazine type pieces.
Right.
And that's really the thing I learned, I guess, was when I went in and did my initial story, and just did kind of the usual thing. I met the team and Penny at the gym where they practiced and played, and I talked to the kids, and they were telling me kind of what it was like to live in the environment, and the gym was in Binghamton, so I was able to see it. But in that case, it was truly parachuting in and out, and it wasn't really till I came back and did the book, and I would sleep on Desmond's sofa usually for 5 to 7 days just so I could,
wow.
And coming in and out, just so I could get a better reality of what life was like in the area. And you just, your heart would sink when you would see how some of these players live and just the struggles that their mothers or aunties or grandmothers go through. It just phenomenal. The one kid, his name was Robert Washington. He was one of about 20 children living at his grandmother's house, and gangs were all over the place. You could visibly see it and feel it, and the one thing I wish, just from a writer standpoint, I learned about what Penny was doing after the fact. From a narrative perspective, it would have been amazing to obviously be there and follow the team throughout that first season. Rather, luckily they shot videos throughout the season, so I was able to constructively go back and look at, Penny gave this speech before this game and this happened. Right. But from a narrative standpoint, let's say it would just be so much richer that, after Robert Washington scored 25 points, following him to his house and then seeing, just what the life of this guy that was celebrated as a hero, just to see the hardship that he's going through as gang members taunt him and tease him and them into his world. But there's nothing I could do about that. That would have just made the story so much richer. And so you just try to you reconstruct everything as best as possible. But that was the other thing that with Penny coaching, that he and Desmond met with the various gang leaders of the neighborhood, and they all pretty much struck up a truce that they would not, try to prey on the kids on the team.
Oh wow!
Yes.
Well, that's an amazing story, Wayne. Let me leave you with one question. Obviously, this podcast is going to come out on Martin Luther King Day, and so at kind of a bleak period in one of the nation's leading cities, what good can come out of this? I mean, what can we build on instead of just kind of shaking our heads at?
I mean, it's really to keep Dr. King's message alive, and really to in the good, if you want to call it that, is good amid all this bad, but that people are listening. I think that's what the black leaders here in Chicago would say. Our voices are finally at least being heard, and now let's make these much needed changes. It's not going to happen overnight, and many of them you don't hear much about it about the black on black violence, but there's these preachers I spoke with the other day that's one of their primary concerns. So they're like there's something messed up when we've had X amount of youth. One of the preachers was saying the coffins had started getting smaller and smaller at his church. That when he started 20, 30 years ago, he was burying adults, and now he's burying 8 years old, 10 years old, 12-year-old kids that those are rarely talked about, and so it's also just having an open, honest conversation to try to start the change that's needed, and really you can't lose sight of King's kind of message of peace as well as hope, and keeping the dream alive, but trying to turn the dream into a practical reality in today's society and today's world.
Wow. Well, thanks, Wayne. This has been great. I really appreciate you taking time to get on with me, and look forward to seeing you soon and seeing more of you up there on the screen on CNN like you were this last weekend.
All right. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed my interview with Wayne Drash today. Visit DaleWileyShow.net, buy some books, throw some money. Copyright 2016.